This episode is brought to you by Pantaray. At Pantaray, we help everyday investors adapt their investment portfolio to shifting market conditions. We aim to help you generate consistent performance in all phases of the economic cycle. We launched an active ETP in London and Amsterdam, approved and regulated in Europe and in the UK. I am the founder of Pantaray, Nico, and I'm here with my co-founder, Bastien. How are you today?
I'm super good, Nico. Super happy to be here with our friends to talk about financial markets and wines. Today, we are the 6th of February, Friday, and this is the Decanted portfolio.
Episode number 15. A couple of disclaimers before starting, right?
Yes, two disclaimers. This is not, financial advice, and please drink responsibly.
Fantastic. And so I have an agenda for today with you, Bastien, for our guests, which is discussing about what has happened in the market, financial markets this week. And we will talk about a monster wine, which is port. We'll review everything about port today. I'm really excited. But before, what has been your impression of financial markets this week?
Oh, I think my impression is very linked to the decision we made to talk about port because Portugal is about, of course, wine. It's about music. It's about fado. It's a melancholic music, and I think this is the feeling that I have about this week about financial market. Is that been a tough week, to be honest. You will provide more details, but I think like all our friends know that the majority of markets went down. It would be super interesting to understand why. But of course, we have been talking a lot about Bitcoins also these last days. But we are going at a rate which is below, the price of Bitcoin before President Trump arrived in power. So it was quite, I think, a shock for investors. And so Bitcoin went down, S&P went down, Nasdaq went down, European stock more or less zero. So tough week, a lot of emotions, difficult ones, I think, because it looks like, but we'll be seeing the next days that maybe it's a end of a good mood, of good spirits. We are also a lot of questions about AI. I think about some investments which are higher and higher. Yeah, many. Clouds starts to arrive in the sky. That's my feeling for a week, Nico. So tell us a little bit more about what happened and the root cause of all this mess, if I can call it a mess.
See, exactly. No, thank you for the comments. You are absolutely on point. It feels, we will not know for a while, but it feels like a small change of regime. It came, the Trump administration in the US, big fiscal spending, big hopes on deregulation. Markets have been doing well despite in a very volatile fashion in 2025. And we started this year, it seems, with the wrong foot. A lot of investments in commodities to protect from the debasement of the dollar. But the gold price, which touched $5,500 per ounce, is below $700 from that point, is more than 10% down. Euphoria in a defensive asset with too many people participating at a time where some calendars of derivatives and options were expiring. So institutional investors took advantage of an overcrowded market. A lot of people lost money. You mentioned the Nasdaq didn't go anywhere since October. In the past 5 days, almost minus 5% in performance. S&P minus 2 in dollar terms. European markets that did well over the past few months completely stuck. Bonds are not helping. Crypto, as you said, lost all the gains since when the President Trump was nominated with big promises on that market. So markets right now not in good health. Pay attention that as institutional investors, we do always find risks and always find opportunities. So it is in those difficult moments that you buy what people don't want to buy, which is value. So always interesting to be on markets, but the mood is melancholic, as you say. A couple of macroeconomic interesting points. First, we have seen new employment data coming out of the US with the highest pace of cutting jobs since 2009. Only in January, 110,000 jobs will be cut by a bunch of companies, probably because of AI. Not good news. Okay, I will show for the first time, maybe together, our deck that we use for our software. Okay, so we bring you for the first time into our software of Panteray that we use to interpret market conditions on a daily basis. And this is to yesterday closing the 5th of February, the list of over to underweights in different main asset classes that the software sees and then uses to manage our investment portfolio autonomously. So this is an interesting part. We'll navigate to different parts of the software. We'll go into our strategy. This is what you see in terms of daily distribution of our portfolio. Just for information, if you will be interested to see this, send us an email and we'll share access. But I want to go into the study of the individual important elements of what is happening to the market this week. And I want to show you this. We go into the macroeconomic part, we click into the US, and we go into unemployment. And you will see a couple of things. Since the beginning of 2025, the pace of new jobs created in the US is very, very mild. Unemployment has been slowly rising. Of course, given that migrants are being pushed away, unemployment is not going higher faster, but that's not pretty to watch. I will bring in a chart that I prepared, which is coming from a different source, from Bloomberg. You see that has just been announced a pace of cutting, which is 118% faster than 18 months ago. So while the economy is doing well, and we keep on seeing, if I move to a different screen, we'll bring you to leading indicators of growth. The software comments everything every day for us, but I can tell you that these PMI indices continue to be positive in the US and in Europe, slightly so, but still positive. Markets expect economic growth to come. Employment in the US is not doing well. We'll discuss 1 second about tech and AI, but first let me bring you into markets. We also monitor markets. We have a lot of different charts that we can explore. I will bring you into the trend of the Nasdaq in these past few months. We start in September, and you see that the Nasdaq at yesterday closing is at an identical level to the beginning of October. Up, down, without finding direction. We'll explain in a second why. And if I bring you, if you don't follow this every day, to the adventure in gold, we'll expand to have 1 year of history. You see the parabolic growth of gold that arrives to this point at the end of January, and then it crashes and didn't find a support yet. This is just to show you what we typically discuss with you, okay? I'll pull out of these screens and we'll continue. Okay, so we have been seeing or looking at some data together. I just want to add, Bastien, a couple of things. First, a lot of tech companies came out with good results, starting from Microsoft. But the concerns that we discussed months ago, where these companies are spending a lot of money on software development and data centers, the revenues being generated by adding AI to their product mix is not fast enough. They've been all punished by investors. Point number 2, Anthropic just came out with a legal solution that is basically deleting a lot of value proposed by junior and mid-seniority lawyers. And that's good for clients of Anthropic, but not for legal firms. Some have been going down in the stock market up to 20% the other day. Anthropic just today came also out with an experimental piece of software saying that they can analyze the balance sheet of a company in minutes, probably deleting the job of financial analysts for 1 day for doing the same job. And so the market is assessing the risks and opportunities of AI. The sum of these concerns is keeping stocks blocked or in negative territory. Metals don't hedge anymore. Bonds didn't defend yet, and so we are in this transition that you perceive. This is a good summary of what has been happening in the marketplace.
And just maybe for our friends that maybe don't know, Anthropic is, they have Claude. I mean, this is a Claude, AI. So you probably know better the name of Claude, which is AI tool quite known and very known in the market for coding.
Similar to ChatGPT or Gemini Pro, no?
Yeah,
Very
absolutely.
cool. See, so this is the market, no? And so we said port, melancholic feelings. What do you know about port? What do you want to tell to the audience?
So I mean, port. First of all, it's important. For me because when I was working in the US, so several years ago, so I had the chance to work for a champagne house, and it happened that this champagne house had also a port in their portfolio, and not only the portfolio, but also they were owning, a port house. So I had the chance to drink a lot of port, to taste a lot of port, and I have to say I really love this kind of wine because this is a wine. So that's important also. Port is made out of wine, and we are going to talk about it in the coming minutes. So of course, port is coming from a region in Portugal. So you will, I suppose, guess it coming from Porto. I mean, it's not too far from Porto, but this is where basically. It's on the at the end of the Douro River, and you're going to show I think a map, Nico,
yes.
in sometimes, and
here.
And this is this region, the city of Porto, basically is the start of the trip for the port when it's exported worldwide. But basically everything happens on the river, on the Douro River, little bit, a couple of 100 kilometers. East of Oporto, where you have the production region of the port.
Yes.
And it's split in 3 regions. So sorry for my Portuguese friend for my accent. So it's Bexo Corgo, Simo Corgo, and Douro Superior, which is probably the most known region, because it's the most famous one. And it's very interesting because the climate is very hot. I mean, summer is super hot. It's a river, so it's very steep, very steep slopes. And of course, which is interesting also for producing wine because you have a big difference of temperatures between, of course, the grapes which are down to the river and the one which are on the top when you have also more sun. And so you will see different quality of grapes, depending where you are on the slopes. You have 5 main grapes for port. So I will only mention Touriga Nacional, which is also probably the most well-known worldwide. But you have, just to know for your culture, you have some 4 other kind of grapes. And in terms of production, as I mentioned, we are talking about a wine. Why wine? Because it's a combination of wine. So you start to produce like regular red wines. So you're doing the harvest usually at night because you try to find a little bit of cooler air because it's so hot during the day that it can go to above 40 degrees in that region in summer. And you start to do the vinification. So the level of alcohol is increasing. And you're going to do a fortification, meaning you're going to add alcohol into the wine. And this will stop the process of fermentation. It's a natural chemicals reactions. And then you will age, that mixture for a very, very long time. And you age this wine usually in Oporto, or because you have 2 cities. At the end of the Douro River, on one side you have Oporto, and on the other side it's Vila Nova de Gaia. Yeah. And basically this is where all the port house they store their wines because it's cooler also because you are close to the sea because it's when you are in the Douro Valley it's super hot, so not very good temperature to age the wine. And this is where basically the magic happen. And of course just few tasting elements. So we are talking about, of course, a red wine, okay? Very thick skin wine, very high in tannin. So you have a lot of black fruits taste, of course, depending on when you are going to drink your wine, because port can age for decades, means because you can keep it for a very long time. But you're gonna find in terms of taste, blackberry, blueberry, black plum, and the color is gonna be purple. Okay, of course you have different level of intensity depending on the kind of wine. And I think Nico, you're going to explain to our friends basically the different kind of wines you can make in port.
See, super interesting, Bastian. Just one element before intervening on my side. What was the origin of the port wine? How was it invented?
That's a very good question. And I think sometimes the best creation, best discovery are made by just testing and experimenting. And the story behind port, it's coming from England actually, because of course the English people they have been drinking wine for many years, for decades, century. They were in Bordeaux, in France, and they were, buying Bordeaux wines and bringing back to UK, to England. And they started to go south. And they arrived in Portugal at some point, and they were doing the same. So bringing back by boat, the wine. And of course, it was in a couple of weeks because there was it was like by wind. So no like fast boat. And when at the beginning the quality of the wine was not good because it was too long on the boat, and so they thought, okay, what can I do basically to keep the quality, or to be able to sell the wine when I arrive? Because if it's no longer good, you're losing all the shipment. And they started to put a little bit of alcohol, of spirits inside the barrel, to see if it will change. And basically, this is how port was born. So because at the beginning, it was only just like a red or white wine. So this is the story of port, just like a test and trying to find a solution to be able to ship, wine from Portugal to England.
Fantastic. So you see how many things then in life come out of necessity. The wine was not arriving in the UK in good shape, and they added a fortified mix, and it came out fantastic. Beautiful.
Exactly.
So we'll go in a couple of more details just to add some flavor to the super interesting facts that you mentioned. Element number one: the alcohol that is being added to port is a brandy, and it is usually added chilled. Port is usually produced in barrels of 600 liters. You add the brandy there first, and then it comes the fruit. Second thing that is interesting, the Douro Valley is splendid. Is a geographical marvel, very steep, a lot of sun, and a lot of drain for the water. We'll discuss about Porto today, but another episode will have to be dedicated to the Douro real red wines without fortification, okay, for another time. Then you mentioned Touriga Nacional, the other two of the three grapes that are missing that are typically also gaining more importance because they are becoming a new thing. Touriga Franca and Tinta Roriz there. These mixes are either then stored in Porto or Villanova do Gaia, as you mentioned, Bastian, which is the tradition. And now, because the production is becoming more popular, something is kept at the production sites before shipping, which is part of this process. Now, while these are beautiful wines and you can buy them anywhere on the planet, I think, if you are of the right age and you like these type of things, it is difficult to buy port because there's many types. So we went through where it is done, story, fortification process, grapes. Now I want to add which port wines to buy. Many brands, many good brands. Do your own research. My favorites are number one, Quinta do Crasto, if you want to have a name. Then two, Graham, Taylor, Newport. Good starting points in case you want to know. Very different styles. So which port wines can you buy? You will find the first category is ruby ports. You have to know that, like in Champagne in the past, or also now, port is coming from a mix of grapes out of a mix of vintages to give the character that it requires. Only 3 on average out of 10 vintages produce wine that is good enough for being single vintage. So the ruby ports are a mix of grapes of different qualities, not excellent, from different years, kept in wood for around 4 to 6 years. That's the lightest, easiest, cheapest type of port. Interesting, sweet, easy to drink, not many emotions. It will not last very much, okay? Entry level is ruby port. Of course, you have the equivalent on the white port, which is less common to find. 2, tawny. You still take a mix of grapes from different vintages, you put them together in wood casks or barrels, and you keep them typically for 10 or 20 years. There's some rarer 30 and 40 years tawny ports. They start expanding a bit, having more flavor, having more depth, but it is still a mix of different vintages and maybe different sourced grapes, not only from one appellation of Porto. Tawny. Second level. Third level, very mixed quality, but you can find some gems, late bottled vintage. From some of the good years, one producer with its own grapes, put them together, but added to wood also for the 4 to 6 years, is a specific denomination, high quality, but also smoothened and matured. And when you buy them, they're ready to drink. Some are like tawny ports, maybe at a higher price point, not good value. Some others are very close to the best of the best, which is the fourth level, the vintage Porto. So if you find the Quinta do Crasto, to mention one, which is a 2017, still young, but he had the opportunity to drink it, that's the best of the best. Is one producer, best grapes, in a great year, not smoothened by a lot of work in the wood, put in the bottle after some aging, and it is for you there to either enjoy, but better if you are patient to wait for 10, 20 years. Instead of going and buying it out after aging, that will cost much more, go out and do some shopping and keep those Portos in the cellar. So vintage, top quality, only some years from the best producers. Late bottled vintage with some woodwork, tawny 10, 20 years typically, or ruby below. This is the way you have to think about it. From level 1 to 4, prices will change, okay? So in the most complex ports, you have this marmalade of red fruits that you mentioned, but you can have fresh, spicy flavors, more cask, more depth. It is really a poetry of complexity and strength, and I think they can be drunk with good cheese for aperitivo. Of course, very hard to follow later with wines. You should stop there. Or as dessert wines for later, especially with chocolate. Right.
Yeah, and the beauty, I think, with vintage, you can drink it also like drink the meal, and because it's such good wine. The only thing is that you have to be careful because it's usually around 20 degrees of alcohol, so and it's heavy. So it's hard to drink a lot of it because, of course, the level of alcohol is high. But you can, when you have very good vintage wine, you can definitely drink it like as a wine and just go with all the meals, and it's fantastic.
See, it is important to say. I was thinking that you mentioned the fermentation is cut short by the addition of alcohol. Fermentation, right. Remember, there is transforming sugars from the grapes into alcohol. So if you stop the fermentation early, some of the natural sugars remain, which is why the port wine is naturally sweet.
Absolutely. Yeah. Correct.
So I would say this is everything we wanted to say on port. Melancholic feelings. As good investors, we are ready for any environment with Pantaray software and Pantaray Adapt. You had a glimpse on what we can see in the software. Hundreds of charts. Everything explained every day. The engine behind understands and creates the right asset mix for our portfolio. We are very soon going to publish not only our daily portfolio that we are investing in stock exchanges, as we mentioned, but also a list in case you are a do-it-yourself investor, a list of possible positions or ETFs that you can get inspired with every day. No financial advice. invest with your own judgment. Just add this element to whatever you look at to invest, but we think it's going to be a powerful list of suggestions to consolidate your investment choices. Stay tuned. And with this, I think Bastien will speak next week with everyone, right?
Absolutely. And guys, please do not forget to to follow us on the social networks, such as we are on YouTube channel, Spotify, or LinkedIn. Please like us, follow us. Do not hesitate to comment or just email us. We'll be more than happy to answer to any of your questions.
Fantastic. Have a good week. Bye.
Bye, guys.